Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. In Nigeria, comedians have existed from time immemorial in the form of village spokesmen, especially at ceremonial occasions. These comedians were so recognized that they were paid to perform at events. By the 1950s, the first generation of vocational humor performers were already visible in Nigeria. The business of comedy began in the 70s, where the popular Mazi Mperipe program on Radio Nigeria and the old Anambra State Television in Enugu. But it was Ali Baba who made it a career. He had his first show in 1988. Ali Baba dared the odds of negative public perceptions to have a breakthrough in comedy. Well, very soon we're going to be joined by actor and singer Koffi to discuss the metamorphosis of Nigerian comedy.
Thank you for joining us this morning. If you would say, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We've been looking forward to this conversation here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Let's talk about your history. Was it always comedy for you? I know that you're a triple threat, a comedian, an actor, and a singer.
Yes.
But do you have a favorite child when it comes to those three occupations?
Definitely, comedy makes me pay my bills. So definitely, comedy is the leading part of me. The others are just to embellish the talents and then push the envelope beyond what is obtainable, because you shouldn't get stuck. As you can see presently, during the pandemic, a lot of comedians got stuck, but I didn't get stuck.
It's interesting that you would say that, because that was going to be my next question to you. I mean, a lot of comedians have been able to make money from stand-up comedy, but with the pandemic came close of that, and then we began to see, people who had started putting out acts and such and videos on social media have this sort of push, so to speak. So I want to talk about that. In the new age of technology, how would you say comedy has evolved on social media?
Yeah, progressively, I must say. There was a time that it was strictly drama comedy, the Zebudayas, the Samanjas, and the likes. And then, like you earlier said, Ali Baba decided to dare the odds and then go all out as a corporate compere and comedian. At the time, it was not seen as the norm, it was not accepted, but he went all out and he made it profitable. Then the likes of me, Basketball, Teju, TA, we decided to follow suit and then wear a suit.
Okay, we're talking to a comedian this morning, so we should be expecting a lot of this, shouldn't we?
So it became profitable for our generation and then a new pathway for those who now followed us. But we have to always make use of technology, okay? Ali Baba came into a knowing and used it well. He got knowledge to know that for me to do well in this field, I must also dress like the bank MD I'm trying to service. So he revamped the game. But with technology, social media and all that, definitely we need to move a step ahead as well. And that's where the skit comedians started to play. Almost everybody got Instagram accounts, but nobody initially knew what to do with it until we moved from 15-second videos. We started with those 15-second videos, and we were just doing tiny little things to just engage our audiences. And then Instagram saw that there were potentials here, and then they expanded it. And then the boys blossomed. They saw that they had an opportunity to express humor through Instagram. And then Instagram said, okay, we can go a bit further and do IGTV. So definitely it means day in, day out, there will be new ideas, there will be new norms as technology expands. So comedy is just a baby right now, I'm telling you. What is expected in the future would wow everybody. As it is, Nigeria is the only place where we basically just celebrate stand-up comedians more than other areas of comedy. We don't do slapstick as often as we should. We don't do pantomime. We go abroad, you see people like Mr. Bean. He hasn't spoken a word in years, and he's been crowned. He's been knighted, a sir. So it means there are a lot of opportunities ahead of us. We're just starting.
If you were to look at the relationship between yourself and other comedians, whether it's from older generations or new age or people you know personally, what's that relationship been like? Because as you rightly said, social media has done a great thing for Nigerian comedy. You've got slogans like, all my guys are ballers, people saying that all over the world. So if you were to now look at your arsenal of people around you who are all in the same field. Are you guys competing for the same opportunities? Are you guys stealing each other's jokes? How is the relationship between yourselves and others?
As you can see from the video you played, I personally have a very healthy relationship with every entertainer on earth, not even Nigeria alone.
There you go.
I find that balance healthy, and it keeps us all moving forward. I think collaboration is the new key, not trying to prove that you're better than somebody else. You need something from somebody, no matter how good you are. That's my own drive, that's my own motto. So I think a lot of comedians actually do that as well. There is no comedian in Nigeria that doesn't try to help the other comedian. We find it, if you check any of my events, almost every other comedian will be there. They might not be on stage, but they'll be somewhere there in the crowd. And then at every other comedian's event, almost every other comedian does that. We're like a support system. We believe the chain is as strong as the weakest link. So we make sure we support one another. So check, as you can see, that's Omo Baba in the background there. He wasn't built to perform at that show, but he had to be there. A lot of other people would always do that in the comedy sector. That's how we run. It's an unwritten rule. We met it, and we're still following through. So with the skit comedians, the same principle applies. If you check Lasisi Elenu, you'll see him and Pencil once in a while do stuff. You see Lasisi and MC Lively. And then where it happens, I'm also in play. If you check some of my previous videos, you see those guys somewhere. We're always just working together. We don't see it as you're different from me, I'm different from you, your generation. I am even with everybody. Old, young, upcoming, I'm carrying everyone along. So for me, if you check Basket Mouth's new post lately, he's doing this Sunday night live with Sunday nights with a lot of young, so everybody's carrying everybody along. A tree cannot make a forest. So we started collaborations before musicians realized that they needed to do collaborations. So for me, it's like our own founding principle, our foundation, that you must work with your brothers. You must carry everybody along. Definitely. So that's why we're still here.
Definitely. I mean, I'm looking at that video, and I must say, I miss going out to the comedy shows and just having a good laugh.
We're coming back soon.
Let's just pray that they open up the event center soon.
We're coming back soon.
But I want to talk about the challenge that broke the internet, the Don't Leave Me challenge by Josh Too Funny. I mean, it went viral. I'm reading here that it did over 1 billion views on TikTok and more than 400,000 posts on Instagram. Now, looking at something that huge, we do know that the entertainment sector is one of the biggest exports out of Nigeria. And in that time, we had so many nations looking to Nigeria for some sort of comic relief. Now, as someone that has been in the field for a long time, how do we take advantage of this, should I say, this attention that we currently have and represent Nigeria in the way that we should?
I think this is a wake-up call to all of us that anything could happen anytime. The same way Nollywood got its recognition, now Nigerian comedians are starting to be in the spotlight. Thanks to Don't Leave Me Challenge, I think every comedian now needs to wake up with their content and profiling. We don't have to stay pedestrian anymore. We need to be quite intelligent and cerebral in what we push out there. We need to be very, very, very conscious of what we're saying and what we're doing. Back then, we could just play with our pidgin language and then do whatever we want. But now the spotlight is on us. So try and reach out for that international community with the way you speak, elocution, your use of language, and then the materials you throw out there. We now need to be very careful. Because once the attention span shifts from us, we're off the radar. It happens a lot. Americans like to give you your season. Once you mess it up, they take you out of the system. One season it is Shabaranks, one season it is Shaggy, one season it is Movado, one season. So if they give you your season and you don't do well with it, then you're out. Okay, but you can be Sean Paul, go in and come back. So I would like for us to be on the table at some point and then have our sports once in a while. I don't see us not getting to the Apollo Theater. I don't see me, Basket Mouth, or anybody, or Bobby, making it that far, because it's very possible we can see. With social media especially, we have a lot of videos on YouTube, but it hardly hits that much view. But with the challenge, it's now possible for us to go further. We touch the whole earth with Don't Leave Me challenge. So as you can see, I'm saying we because it's a collective win for all of us right now. So I think every other sector needs to do better with the scripting, with the content, the drive, the sound, because some of the sounds we use in these videos are not paid for, and intellectual property is key. So we now need to take note of a lot of factors that go with everything we throw out there. It's very key now. We need to, see beyond Nigeria, the four walls of this country.
Yeah. It's good to see Funke Akindele. We can't even say that's a veteran clip. It's from a few years ago, isn't it?
2015, yes, definitely. And like I said before, when you just look at the crowd and you see how lucky we were back in the day to just gather around with people, exactly. No face masks inside. Oh, I miss it so much.
Tell us about that experience. Tell us, the both of you, your careers have taken off immensely since that point. Tell us about that growth and that progression. I guess that's another example of you saying that you have good relationships with many people in the industry.
Well, yeah, I think that was 2014, not 15 actually, 2014. Ironically, she actually sacrificed a lot to be at that event. She had just lost somebody. And she was supposed to travel out, and she said, no, Koffi, I'm going to do this before I go. And she stayed back to do the show. I have that relationship with a lot of people across different... In fact, I've made a couple of movies lately, and by the time they start coming out, you'll be like, wow, oh, really? You are with this person, oh, really? So I usually don't exploit all those opportunities until when it is time. Funke and I, we've tried to do a couple of things since then, but she's been busy, I've been busy, we hardly have time to come together and all that. But yes, it's good to have this kind of friends and partners and relationships, because it helps a lot. It makes you just, you can relax. It's okay, I have somebody's shoulder somewhere and they have your shoulder as well. If she calls me tomorrow, I'm ready. If I call her tomorrow and she's available, we go. For me, that's how it works, collaborations, not just you. In fact, I had an album called Collaborations, the biggest ever by any Nigerian entertainer, with over 50 acts on it.
Wow.
Yes, over 50 entertainers on that album, upcoming. In fact, some of the songs from that album will be featured in a movie very soon. You'll see Paul Place on Ineji, Shina Peters, and you're like, oh, you did a song with these people, Raskimono before he passed, and a couple of young cats you don't know, then Negro. See, it's a lot. I've done a lot on that level, but you hardly see them because they are not in the general space, but gradually you start to see them. Oh, okay, that's Shina Peters right there. That was the first time Raskimono was performing on stage in Nigeria after a long time, and that night he blew the roof, as in people were shocked, like, wow, Raskimono.
You spoke about intellectual property. So I want to talk to you about that. I mean, there's so many things, like you said, that comedians create original ideas for and are not necessarily rewarded for such. Now, for someone like you that has worked with so many people, especially even on an album where IPs are very important, how would you say you've dealt with that?
Well, I heard you earlier say comedians steal jokes and all that and all that. At some point, I took up the fight against intellectual property theft, and I was blacklisted for it. But then, a few years later, I see everybody going, wow, we should have supported Koffi when he was fighting this fight. Now see what is happening, it's a mess, blah, blah, blah. I think most young comedians start out by sampling other people's materials. But the moment you start becoming a brand of your own, you shouldn't do that anymore. Unfortunately, a lot of comedians are not ready to be out there before they just blow up. And then, there's so much demand for their presence everywhere, and they try to keep up, and that's where they start poaching other people's materials. So I feel sometimes the audience, right now I think a lot of the audience are starting to realize who owns what. And originality is starting to play out, especially in these climes. They are starting to see that, oh, this idea, that show you saw, that was the first time Josh and Creb Bello were ever going to perform on stage. They had very authentic original materials. What's this boy's name again? D1 and SL. Okay, that was the first time ever they were performing on a major stage. They had authentic original materials. And I was confident enough to put them on, disregarding the fact that they were not known at the time. Now, a lot of people don't try to take the risk of engaging these young talents because they feel they might not be good enough. And that's why I like to give them platforms so that people can see that they are good enough. So if we try enough to give other people platforms and opportunities, we will do away with intellectual property theft. A lot more of the new ones who have ideas will come into play so that there will be less pressure on the established guys so that they won't need to start poaching other people's materials. It's the demand that causes it. You see one guy, he's blown up this season, and that's the only guy you want to see everywhere. How many jokes does he have? Spread it out. Let the thing go around. Allow other people come into play. It doesn't stop his bread. In fact, sometimes the guy you engage too much becomes arrogant and full of himself with so much finances coming to him, he feels he's a lord. I think if you spread it around and allow other people benefit from these services, then everybody's going to be good. We don't need one person to be the only guy everywhere. It's putting pressure on the industry. It makes people want to take what is not theirs. Unfortunately, at the time this thing blew up, it was the guys in the middle level who would take from those up there and take from those coming behind them. And so they kind of suppressed those coming from behind them. We on the other level were okay. We were established already. But you're just coming into play, and then you're taking from us. You take from Benga, you take from Alibaba, you take from TA, you take from Basketball. Then you take from the guys that are still trying to find their head. Like, okay, where I go there? And then you're taking from. So they just kind of collapsed everything, and it became noticeable that something is wrong with the comedy industry. But now it's restructuring. People are starting to see that, okay, this guy has his own original.
It's such a difficult part, I think, to do when we're definitely enjoying conversations but having to cut them short. We even wanted to go on and ask you what's next for comedy, for yourself, for Nigeria. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, but Seyitan and I wanted to thank you so much for joining us. We've enjoyed every bit of this.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was Koffi, the Guru.